I'd like to pay my respects to all the Theras and Bhikkhus today, and give my blessing to the laity. You've all come here because you're interested in the Dhamma, practicing the Dhamma. Today is the Saturday, 12th of February. We've come here together to practice Dhamma together, to give up our time and our other duties for this purpose. And because we see that the practice of Dhamma is something important in our lives. Today I bring you some of the teachings on the way of practicing Dhamma for the end of suffering, in line with the 37 Bodhipakkhya Dhammas, the wings of awakening, or the factors for enlightenment that the Buddha discussed or taught. And also, in particular, to talk about the Araka Gamatana, the practices of meditation that we should preserve and uphold on a regular basis in our daily life. We should contemplate that life is short, time is passing by all the time. This is a truth that we should make ourselves fully aware of. And we should learn from this in accordance with this truth. This is what you would call being heedful in your life. The Araka Gamatana, these Gamatana meditations to be upheld and practiced regularly in life, they partly are based on this recollection of impermanence, the impermanence of our life. Just as we chanted just now in the chant, the 5 frequent recollections, we reflect on the fact that death is inevitable in our life. And like this life we have, it's impermanent, and death is inevitable. This is a simple fact of life that we have to come to accept in our heart. It's something we don't wish for, but it is true. The other 3 meditations that we develop on the regular basis are the Asupa Gamatana, the reflection on the unattractiveness nature of this body; Metta Bhavana, the development of the thought of idea of loving kindness and goodwill to oneself and others; and Buddhanusati, a recollection of the Buddha and bringing the mind to full awareness and complete mindfulness through the recollection of Buddha, bringing up a sense of cool inner happiness. So these are 4 different meditation objects that the Buddha encouraged us to develop on a regular basis. They're appropriate for us as human beings. The first one, Marananusati, the recollection of death as an object of meditation. We should see that this is something that is actually a blessing from heaven or a higher place. It's a teaching that reminds us of the basic truth of our existence. The fact that this body is changing all the time. It grows up from birth, we go through youth, middle age, old age, and eventually we must die. So this truth is available for us to contemplate all the time if we look. When we contemplate in this way, it helps to counter our delusions, the mental defilements that delude us based on ignorance of the truth. When we are ignorant of the truth, we tend to be infatuated with life and the world. We become intoxicated with our senses and the things that we can experience in this life. And there's no end to that. But when we develop the nimitta, the sign of death or the symbol of death in our mind, it helps to change that deluded perception, helps us to counter and uproot these firmly held attachments to the sense of self that sense of owning things and the sense of self that feels like it will be here forever. That sense of this is me, this is mine. It teaches us to see through that and to see that ultimately we have no ownership of this life, this body, or our possessions. So recollecting death on a regular basis like this helps to break through these delusions about the world and ourselves, helps us to let go of some of this attachment to a sense of self and self-importance, to let go of our craving based on wrong view. And usually we are enslaved to desires and craving for the world and the things of the world and for this very existence as a human being. So the Lord Buddha was actually helping us to deal skillfully with this, to uproot this delusion through contemplating impermanence, the impermanence of this body and the material world. This body is constantly changing, and with change it comes to its eventual decline and degeneration. It will not last forever. We develop awareness of this fact, and this will gradually lead to a sense of detached awareness in the mind arising, sense of seclusion from the mental defilements and wrong view. Even though we still live in the world and we're involved with the world and the things of this world, the mind becomes detached from these things because it's aware all the time of impermanence. All the basic necessities of life that we're constantly involved with, just the ordinary things that we use, food and clothes, homes, and the things that we use in this world, we come to see with a detached awareness that these things we just depend on temporarily, and they have no lasting essence or any lasting self. We learn not to follow our craving for them, because we can see craving just feeds attachment and possessiveness, what the Buddha called macharya, that sense of possessiveness, stinginess, where we keep clinging on to things based on our greed, and where if we don't reflect we tend to just get caught into that state. It has no limit. But as we practice contemplating impermanence and seeing that ultimately we must die and leave all these things, it helps us to see greed and put it in its place, see that it's actually a source of suffering because it's based on delusion. We see the very nature of greed is actually an ugly state of mind. It's not something very beautiful or nice to look at. And it's actually a very dangerous state of mind because it leads to all kinds of problems for us and for society. Lopo dhammanang paripanti. Lopa, greed, is dangerous to the Dhamma, to truth. So we develop the recollection of death to help remedy our delusions about life and about the world. We become more and more familiar with the idea of death, the concept of death, and see that it is just a part of life. It's just normal. It's a part of nature. The result of it is that the mind accepts this truth and becomes peaceful. It can see that this body is ultimately, it's not self. Doesn't belong to a self. It's not me. It's not mine. We see through the superficial attachment to things such as gender or culture or race or our social status, social class, see through to the deeper realities of life. In the end, we come to see that all people are the same in this way. We're all subject to birth, old age, sickness and death, when you look at it in terms of Dhamma. This is the mind we call apamanya, the unconditional mind, the unlimited mind, where one has an unbiased, unconditional sense of kindness and compassion for all beings, seeing them all as the same. All people, whoever they are, wherever they are the same. We all want to be peaceful and happy in life. We all hate suffering. So we're all the same. This contemplation over time helps us to reduce this normal attachment to a sense of self. Our sense of conceit, self-view, starts to fade away. The intoxication with sensuality starts to cool down, or we sober up, as it were. And the heat of suffering based on deluded mental states starts to subside. The contemplation of death is therefore a skillful means to uproot all mental defilements, greed, anger and delusion, to counter all the mental defilements that support attachments, and to bring us to experience the cool, peaceful heart within. And this is the purpose of all Kammatthana, all meditation practices. Kammatthana literally means a skillful means to train the mind to experience purity and freedom from attachment to the world, to freedom from attachment to this body and this mind, to freedom from all craving that normally bothers us and causes us suffering. So we should practice, we should develop the Kammatthana, the practice of meditation, for our own well-being. The Lord Buddha encouraged us to recollect death on a regular basis as a way of developing our spiritual perfections and the virtuous qualities of this mind. It brings us to actually become a full and complete human being. We should see that the contemplation of these things, aging and death and the impermanence of this world, these are the heavenly messengers that help us to become wiser when we contemplate them. We come to see the fact that when we die there is no self in this body. It must break up, disintegrate, go back to nature. If we see this truth before we die, then we are as if putting down the heavy burden of attachment that we normally carrying around with us. So the mind starts to actually feel good, feel light and happy within itself, because it's becoming free from delusion. The mind becomes peaceful when it's free from delusion. It becomes the mind of a samana, a peaceful one who aspires to experience a mind without confusion, without suffering, without attachment to happiness or suffering, just a mind that is cool, peaceful and well developed, well trained, a mind without danger, a mind that is free from all enemies. This is the result of the practice of Kammatthana. So we are focusing on the truth of the decline of this body, the natural decline and degeneration of this body. Contemplating the fact that we must separate from all that we love and like in this world, and that separation is a certainty. All formations are impermanent. When we see this truth, then the mind comes into line with the Satya Dhamma. When we see that all formations, physical and mental, are anicca, aniccang, they're impermanent, transient, subject to change. Physical formations, this body, others' bodies, the material world, are impermanent, whether internal or external, ourselves, others. All these physical formations are anicca, subject to change, transient. This characteristic of impermanence covers everything. It's to be found throughout nature. It's a truth, it's a Satya Dhamma. It shows itself through the change that we experience. This body is changing, others' bodies are changing, the world around us is changing. Things arise into this world, they exist, and then they pass away. That's the nature of all formations. There's no person involved in that, there's no one controlling or owning that. This is just the way nature functions. Not only can we see the impermanence of the physical world and the physical formations of this body and the things around, we can also see that in that way things are unattractive as well, because they're constantly changing and nothing remains pure, pristine or clean all the time. The way we come to observe this truth is by focusing on the parts of the body as a meditation, as a gammatana. The mula gammatana we practice focusing on the 5 basic external meditation objects of this body. So it's kesa, loma, naka, danta, tacho, hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth and skin. We focus on each in turn as a meditation object to become fully aware of the truth of each individual body part, that it's something ultimately not pure, not clean, not attractive. Each body part is impermanent. This helps us to uproot our infatuation with the body, particularly the external parts of this body, which we're always looking at as something beautiful, enticing and so on. We're usually deluded in this way. Really, you could say we're drunk with this delusion. You know, we attach to life, and so we become drunk with it and forget death. We get drunk on youth and forget old age, and so on. But the practice of meditation, focusing on the body, helps to sober us up from this drunken state of delusion. It results in a sense of quiet detachment and seclusion of the mind from its normal sense of going out to the world through the senses. It becomes secluded from its normal obsession with the senses and the objects of the senses. Normally our desires, our wants, they control the mind. Everything seems very attractive. Everything seems to be something we want and we need to be happy. But when we contemplate like this, we see that that just leads to indulgence and suffering. We get lost in these moods of sensuality all the time, and the mind is not free. It's always worried. It's always attached to things, always thinking about things, obsessed with things. But when we train in the gammatana, focusing on the body as an object of awareness with mindfulness, then we start to experience some peace from this craving. Then the mind starts to get a rest from its normal state of restless agitation based on craving. So it feels good, it feels happy in itself. This is the happiness of detachment. The mind becomes stronger, more energetic, because it's not deluded. It's not concerned about these things anymore. So there's a sense of independence from its normal attachment to this body, other people's body, and the material things of this world. This is the result that comes through the practice of a supagammatana. The mind becomes detached, secluded, and peaceful. We gain a kind of mental immunity to the effects of craving. Normally, the objects of our craving, the things that stir us up and give us desire and wanting, this keeps bothering the mind. But now we have a sense of immunity. The mind remains free from unwholesome states based on craving. It becomes free and therefore is always at ease, cool, untroubled, unruffled. Doesn't get frustrated. Like if we're always giving in to our desires and following our desires for the things of the senses, the mind easily gets frustrated when it can't get what it wants, and it becomes irritated and averse. But now it's free from irritation and aversion. This is a state of mind that we should all experience. All human beings should get to know and experience this, because it's something that's very peaceful. It's where we can really see the value of the practice, and we understand the value of this practice of gammatana, meditation, because it It's what removes all the obstacles to experiencing a peaceful mind. The practice of a supagamatthana counters our lustful attachment to this body and the body of others. We focus on the body and the parts of the body as a meditation, working from the hair of the head downwards. And little by little our delusions and attachment to this sense of self in these things is eroded away. Brings the mind to see the body just as a part of nature. Brings the mind to see the truth, the reality of this body. And so our view becomes right view. We develop right view or correct view for the of the world. This practice brings our mind to be in line with the teaching of the Lord Buddha. And it brings forth good mental health for us. We look after our mind and it's free from suffering and confusion and troubled states. Those troubled states of mind we leave behind and they're replaced by a sense of peace and an appreciation for the value of the practice and the wisdom that comes through the practice. Brings us to appreciate the value of a human birth where we can contemplate and develop the mind in this way. We can develop it with virtue and goodness and wisdom. This is the result of developing the skillful means of Gamatthana. So the practice of these 4 Araka Gamathanas, the meditation objects that we try to preserve and uphold on a regular basis, are a cause for the arising of physical seclusion from unwholesome ways and behavior, giving rise to mental seclusion from the defilements, giving rise to upati viveka, complete freedom and the exhaustion of the mental defilements in the mind. This is what we call the detached, cool, peaceful mind, where the causes of suffering are completely extinguished. It comes through developing the opposite of that which causes suffering. Just as darkness has light as its opposite, through the practice we develop the qualities that are opposite to those which cause us suffering. We develop the qualities which will help us to extinguish suffering. So developing mindfulness and pure awareness. When we recollect the Buddha, Buddhanusati, one of these 4 Araka Gamathanas, we're recollecting the virtue of the Buddha. We're cultivating, bringing up the state of mind appropriate for one recollecting the Buddha. We're bringing the mind to a sense of completeness, of fullness, through our own efforts to establish mindfulness. As we put effort into establishing mindfulness, recollecting the Buddha, we could say this is an appropriate effort, and when applied in this way, in the right way, it brings forward a sense of composure and restraint in our internal and external behavior. The mind becomes composed by recollecting the Buddha. If we recollect the Buddha through the recitation of Buddho in all activities, then our bodily actions, our speech and our mind will all become composed and restrained. The quality that provides this composure or supports this composure is the quality of mindfulness. When mindfulness is present, then this will prevent our actions from becoming harmful or causing suffering to ourselves or others in society. We become careful through this composed behavior as we develop sati. Our relationships with other people improve and become good, harmonious. We're careful in our speech, careful in our actions. All of this requires the continuous development of mindfulness, recollecting the Buddha and bringing the mind to the present moment at all time. It requires us to let go of our concerns about the past, our obsessions and worries about the past, and similarly our concerns and obsessive worries about the future. We come to accept that the past is over. We can't do anything about that fact. We just have to accept that all our memories about the past, they are just memories, and we have to know them and let them go without getting overly concerned about them. We keep bringing the mind back to the present moment. When we maintain our mindful awareness on the mind in the present moment, then we're able to prevent any unwholesome mental states from overtaking the mind. We establish this quality of the knowing, or the one who knows, protecting over the mind, not letting it fall into deluded states of attraction or aversion. These are the sort of states that cause us suffering. When we fall into aversion, it might be anger towards another person, or jealousy, or envy. These mental states take away our happiness. We're also guarding against the other kind of mental obstacles to a happy, peaceful mind. We guard against the mind falling into states of sloth and torpor, where the mind becomes overly drowsy and caught into a state of dullness and delusion. We guard against the mind falling into states of restlessness and agitated worry that shake the mind, destabilize the mind. And we guard against the mind falling into mental states of uncertainty, skeptical doubt, and so on, which cause confusion and again take away the sense of peace. All these unwholesome states become recognizable as we maintain our mindfulness, and we have to establish our own Satya Dhamma with ourselves, establish our own focus on the truth and determine our minds that we will keep the mind in the present moment and not let it fall into any of these mental hindrances. We determine ourselves to establish the mind with mindfulness, without giving into anything else, without letting anything else disturb it. If we're sitting meditation, that means we sit up straight and determine the mind to focus on the meditation object. We use this quality of sati, or the knowing, to watch over the mind. And this is different from the physical eye, which we're normally using to watch things. This is an inner quality of knowing, knowing the mind from moment to moment. Of course, as we practice this, then there will be different obstacles arising and hindrances arising, but we'll get to know them all, and after a while we'll see them that they are just ordinary, they're just that much. Maybe we have pain in the body as we're sitting in meditation, and we start to worry and concern ourselves about this. But you establish mindfulness and see, can you let go of your worry about that pain? Put effort into focusing on your meditation object, and you'll be able to do that. Keep developing this quality of being one who is awake or waking up. Chakum Uddapadi, Jnanam Uddapadi, Aloka Uddapadi, these qualities we chant in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. The mind that is bright, awake, insightful. Keep turning to those qualities, and this is what will help you to let go of your normal attachment to all your different moods and negative states. This knowing gradually merges into what we call samadhi, right view, where the mind sees all things with wisdom in the correct way. This is what gives rise to upati viveka, the mind that is completely secluded from the defilements. It's, you could say, the maturing of our view. It's the maturing of the mind through the practice. This is the mind of Buddha or Buddha, whether it's the Pacceka Buddha or the Samma Sambuddha, the Sapanyu Buddha or the Sāvaka Buddha, a disciple of the Buddha. This quality of the pure mind with pure knowing. This is the quality that is there present in the mind of all enlightened beings. It means the mind that sees truth at all times without delusion, without being affected by the mental defilements. It's the pure mind, the mind free from all forms of harm or suffering that come from the kilesa, the mental defilements. It's the mind that is beyond anger, beyond greed, and beyond delusion. These things have become extinguished. All that's left is the mind that is pure, peaceful and radiant. It's the perfection of the practice. All that's left is a mind that is imbued with kindness, loving kindness and compassion for others. So even if we feel in our own practice we are not yet very skilled, we're still a beginner, the important thing is to just keep doing it. Keep following the path that you are developing, and this will be a cause for your enlightenment. In that sense, we're all bodhisattvas, we're enlightenment beings. We've set our hearts on training this mind and freeing ourselves from the kilesa. This is the way to bring, to do that which is of the highest benefit for human beings. So today we've come together to practice and to listen to the Dhamma. I'd like to express my appreciation to you all for seeing you in your practice. May all the good that you have done in your practice be a cause for you to develop in the Dhamma. May it become a powerful energy that leads to your progress in the practice as you develop the virtues and the perfections that you seek. May you have good health. May you have a mind of loving kindness at all times. Meaning, may you have a mind that embodies the qualities of the Arya, the Sila, Samadhi, Panya, and the Vimutti of an Arya. The Arya Dhammas in the Arya Samaya, meaning in the mind, in the qualities in your mind, may these arise, the qualities that lead to the arising of the Arya Dhamma, the Dhamma of the noble ones, that transcend time and place. And may you experience peace and radiance of mind. May you all flourish in the Dhamma. And I'll end this talk now, having said enough for the moment.